Hello, it's me, Dr. Kopcha, and I'm here to talk to you about the research design activity where you critique a scholarly article for the class Edit 6900. I'm going to go through some of the highlights of this. I do expect you to read it yourself and read for some of the specific details, but I want to highlight some things so that you get a general sense of what we're expecting you to do. Overall, your goal is to go and find an article, an empirical article, meaning one where they've collected data, analyzed the data, and then interpreted that data, and then critique it. And hopefully that article is informative for you in your project in this class. That's my goal overall, is that you're reading something that also will contribute to the next research design activity where you construct your first attempt at a literature review. Right? Reviewing literature it can be fun. And I say that because, again, I want to front load this process with a really important point that sometimes gets lost in the minute details. This should be fun because your very first line of defense, the very first place where you should be focused on is your gut instinct. As you're reading an article, if something feels funny, pay attention to it. If you're reading an article and it doesn't make sense to you, something's off, that's important. That instinct is really important for you to start moving down why. Why does this not feel right? Is there something about the justification for the study? Is there something where the treatment groups seem really contrived, like they just made it up? They said, well, let's just pick this group and compare it to another group. And they don't make sense for some reason. That sense making is a really important piece of critiquing literature that I don't want you to lose focus on. You may not have the perfect academic speak for making the criticism, but if you've got a feeling that something is off about an article, that is an important feeling and you want to pay attention to that. All right, so that being said, you're going to go find an article, read it, and critique it. I want to point out that a final purpose of this assignment, this paragraph right here, is to survey a wide assortment of current or hot research topics for the benefit of everyone. So as you write your critique, know that it will be shared with the entire class, or it could be shared with the entire class. Okay, so what to submit? Your critique will have 4 components. You're going to summarize the article, point out the strengths, the weaknesses, and the personal relevant. This is really important here. I want no more than 400 words. Okay. I want no fewer than 400 words, sorry. And no more than 800 words. I do prefer it double-spaced, it's just easier to read, but we want you to be succinct. If it's too long or too short, I may ask you to do it again. Okay? There is an example here. I want to point that out. You can come back to that on your own, read the critique and see what's in it. But what you should do first is find an article. I do have a video on how to go from a Google Scholar search to our UGA library and downloading an article. So make sure you have a look at that. What I recommend is that you spend a little time using Google Scholar to find a good article. Don't just pick the first article that you find. Look at the abstracts and titles of a few different ones. Look at what journals they're being published in. Some are better and some are worse, and I explain this in my other video about finding a document. But pick one that seems really relevant to you and what you think you're interested in right now. Read it. Again, jot down those initial reactions that you're having. Don't rush through reading the article. Sometimes it helps to read the results first or even the discussion first. Read it backwards. You read the discussion and you think to yourself, I wonder how they got this. I wonder what made them think this. Then when you go back and read the rest of the article, you've cognitively loaded your brain so that you're really paying attention to what's being said instead of just moving through the article. All right, and then complete the critique. I'm going to apologize. I'm not sure that these page numbers are universal. It depends what edition you have. But I will say that there's a section of our textbook that covers literature critique, and so refer to that. But this checklist actually comes from the comes from the textbook. And you want to make sure that you're attending to these things as you're doing your critique. Where did it come from? What was the source? Is there a stated research question or problem? What about the collection of data? That makes sense. Was it logically organized? Were the procedures something that you could follow like a recipe? And if not, what questions did you have? Because some may be very critical to the quality of the research that was done. Do you agree with the way the data were presented and interpreted? And then finally, just reflect over the entire thing. Right, so try and get those things into those 4 sections: summary, strengths, weaknesses, and personal relevance. Okay. You'll see I've got recommendations for how to compose your what you hand in. And so a reference is important. Right here is where you can see that. I need to see a reference, and there's even a model here for you to use. And then there's those 4 components: summary, strengths, weaknesses, and personal relevance. And then I'll explain how to get buddy feedback when we meet, if that's what we're doing. But that's an overview of what this assignment is. Good luck. Email me with questions, and I look forward to seeing what your gut tells you makes sense and doesn't make sense, and what critiques you come up with. Have a good day.